It's live now. Welcome to ID Living Conversations, the 206th session. This is the Rite of Sex Part 2, where we continue the journey exploring the different personalities, intricacies, different aspects of the genders of sexuality. Not really, this is really not about the act of sexual intercourse, it's rather the natural manifestation of genders in the universe and a lot of more things. We don't know what blue hair and woman here with us is going to talk to us about, and that's why you're here. That's why we're here to have this teaching, this exploration, this investigation of our council house, our dojos, our Aloha Indau Living's school. So welcome everyone to this live conversation.
Right. Welcome. So after leaving off with the rite of sex, which is a rite of passage, we're talking about becoming a man or a woman, right? Taking that place in our lives, in the medicine wheel of life, the circle of life. With the rite of sex as that, and then I disappeared to the capital of Lemuria, Peru, for 2 weeks and 3 weeks, 2 weeks and 1 week of I just can't cope with getting back to this. So here we are trying to pick up where we left off, and where we left off is that love made, and I want to stay, as I just said to you before we went live, but for the benefit of anyone who listens, love is not an emotion. Mm-hmm. Romantic love might be, and we're going to talk about that next week. But love, true unconditional love, that is the feminine, erotic, pure eros passion force of the universe, of that the galactic ordering dynamic is not an emotion, it's not a feeling, it's a frequency. Mm-hmm. So love made, that frequency made together, has a profound function. It actually reduces the excitement in the subconscious or the self, the small self. Mm-hmm. And consciousness is the power to register what is happening through the senses or body without using past experience to interpret it. Let's say that again. Consciousness is the power to register what's happening through our senses, which is fully through our body, not this. Mm-hmm. Without using past experience to interpret it. This means that love starts to disappear as a feeling and is replaced by the direct sensation or knowledge of pleasure, which is a very rare state indeed. But it's our inherent natural state. Absolutely inherent. It's the only state of our body that is absolutely universal across all beings, across all human beings, regardless of culture, of skin color, or anything. And we're going to talk about that next week. So the way most of us are today, the sensory pleasure is interpreted through the past and is therefore not conscious or immediate. So consciousness, our power to register what's happening through our senses without using past experience to interpret it, it converts the physical act of making love, of sex, into something that is profound and very spiritually or lovingly meaningful. So in consciousness, woman represents the holy shrine and man is the worshiper of that shrine. Women's genital organ is the shrine and the vital power in the man's penis is the worshiper. So we find in the experience of being human, the compulsive need of a man to worship before the shrine, to have the guardian pillars or the thighs of the shrine open to him, and then parting the curtain of that shrine to gaze into its mystery. And man, when he looks into the vulva, the physical representation of the mystery, is meant to look and adore without using his imagination of fantasy. And his next move then is to experience the shrine with his other senses, to touch it, taste it, smell it, and finally through his holy instrument of full penetration to enter it. And all this should be done in a state of worship, that is, in love that transcends every thought and feeling and the interchange of consciousness between the two. But in touching the shrine, the man's fingers may find their way into the vagina, and this should be done with a conscious knowledge of why he is doing it. Animalistically, he does it because he's unconsciously moved to, and the act, again, serves to excite himself and the vagina rather than fill it with a sense of love. To a man conscious of what he's doing, his fingers are the extension of his holy penis. His fingers can reach places in the vagina which his penis can't, and their function is to stimulate the membranes and muscles of the vagina, and through them the bones of the cave, the pelvic cave. His loving fingers help to remove the substantive buildup of tensional unhappiness that occurs in women's consciousness and mainly centered in her genital organs. And it is her pleasure to receive such love, and it's his pleasure to give it. For woman, the holy power in man is the mystery is in and behind the penis. And from infancy, she's attracted to its mystery and curious to know more about it. In maturity, she is drawn irresistibly to fondle penis, to feel power rising from deep within it, and to finally take it into her through her mouth or her vagina in an action of sheer love and worship of that power that rises up. And this love, or God, can never be the subject of a philosophic exercise. It's too real. It's living and doing now. And so by practicing together to make love rightly, without self-indulgence, without seeking emotional satisfaction and self-gratification, we can draw closer to the realization of consciousness of love itself and the unconscious, timeless union of the male and female principles as one divine presence, the sublime, selfless spirit of love and life in unity. So now let's talk about the art, science, and spirituality of the female orgasm. For centuries, the female orgasm has been misunderstood, diminished, and even feared. Stripped of its true meaning, it's been reduced to a fleeting peak, a bonus. Peak, not a peak, not a P-E-E-K, a peak, like the mountaintop, right? A peak. The top tip of the iceberg, a bonus, a mystery, or something to be chased and achieved. But orgasm is far more than a moment. It's a state of being, an ongoing current that, when understood and cultivated, has the power to transform not just the act of sex, but life itself. Orgasm is not simply a function of pleasure. It's a vital force that shapes our mind, body, and spirit. And when women are disconnected from their full orgasmic nature, they're cut off from a vast wellspring of vitality, and most of us don't even realize it. The suppression of female sexuality is one of the most pervasive and damaging forms of control. And I want to say this at this juncture. I didn't leave you a voice message about this today because I wanted to address this right here and right now. Mm-hmm. In conjunction with this, I had, you've heard me talk to you about how my current lover will ignore me and go into these states of just ghosting me. Mm-hmm. And I'm learning, we're going to talk next week about the origin of feelings, and I'm learning to honor my feelings. And why has that bothered me so much? And so I listened to, when I got home from Peru, I listened to a YouTube video about that. It's from Carl Jung's work. And it said, part of it could be that he's just withdrawing into himself to absorb energies, or the other part of it is a control thing. And I thought to myself, no, I don't see it as a control thing. I'll see it as, that doesn't resonate at this point. But then today, when I was writing this, I realized it's absolutely a control thing, and he's doing it unconsciously. So I can forgive him. I can let it go. But behind him is his mother, who is the same age as I am, who most likely, being raised Catholic, probably thinks I should be as she is beyond the age of sexuality. And so she's going to make sure that he doesn't have the time to engage in sex with me. It's a pure absolute in making love with me. It's a pure absolute control and domination thing. And I understand that it's coming subconsciously from both of them, but that stared me boldly in the face today. It's absolutely a suppression of female sexuality, because as a good Catholic, she has probably more than likely suppressed her own sexuality her entire freaking life. So, yes, it's that control, and we can't. I'm not going to bash on men. I'm not going to, because I understand it's fully unconscious. He has no awareness of that's the impetus behind what he's doing, why he ghosts.
Okay.
So I'm not going to walk away. I'm not going to say you're a fucking asshole. You're a control freak. I'm not going to walk away, because that's purely unconscious. It's conditioned as part of the programming.
Okay.
And he needs a better example. And that's what Virgo energy calls us to do, is to be an example. So we'll get off of that. And I'm not going to let that, I need to deal with that inside myself with my invisible team as to how to work with this, right? So, but women have been conditioned to feel shame about their desire. So yes, there's this whole thing, probably, I feel like, coming from his mother, that I should feel shame about the fact that I'm 57 and I still want to make love. And I don't just want to have sex. I want to make hours worth of love. I've never stepped into that role before. It was always, as we'll discuss, a performance or a chore for me. I don't want it to be that anymore. I'm 57 and I'm willing to embrace my erotic passion, sexuality, power. And I'm not going to be ashamed of it anymore. So we've been conditioned also to approach sex as performance rather than the expression of ourself, and to believe that our pleasure is secondary or excessive. This conditioning does not simply live in the mind. It embeds itself in the body. It numbs sensation. It creates disconnection and manifests in everything from emotional exhaustion to chronic stress and physical illness. So when we as humans, and especially women, step into the full force of our orgasmic nature, not as isolated bursts, but as a continuous state, we awaken something extraordinary. We become more attuned to our body, more emotionally resilient, and more deeply present. And research shows that embracing pleasure and releasing shame has measurable effects, like reducing stress, improving immune function, balancing hormones, and accelerating physical healing.
And that should be the least of the benefits.
Exactly. Right? But beyond the physiological, then we can experience emotional aliveness, as an orgasmic life cultivates self-awareness, authenticity, and the capacity for deeper joy. We'll also experience physical vitality, because the body thrives when it is fully inhabited, when sensation is welcomed rather than feared. And I want to note here that we're talking about sensation, not emotions or feelings. And we're going to go into next week for the 10th time, the origin of feeling. And we're going to discover that we only have two feelings: pleasure or non-displeasure. That's all we have. So sensation, which is felt through taste, vision, hearing, touch, smell, the senses.
Mm-hmm.
Not feeling, senses, sensing. So we also find deeper intimacy. So when sensation is welcomed rather than feared. And then we also find deeper intimacy because a woman who owns her erotic power moves differently in relationships. She's able to connect without grasping, to give without depletion. And you listen to me go through that in the last 48 hours,
Mm-hmm.
right? And lastly, then we experience spiritual expansion or love expansion. Orgasm is a portal into presence, a direct experience of connection with oneself, others, and our more than human life world. So it's time for us, both women and men, to break the cycle of shame and misinformation that has kept us from fully inhabiting our bodies. And it's about tapping into the quiet, continuous current of orgasmic energy, of love energy. Pure Munaiki is orgasmic energy that moves beneath the surface of our daily life. It's
Mm-hmm.
about reclaiming pleasure. It's about tapping into the two inherent feelings, pleasure versus displeasure, that we have, that our body knows intimately, as a pathway of deep fulfillment, richer relationships, and inherent sense of wholeness. So orgasm is not a brief release. It's an ongoing experience of aliveness. It begins as a slight trembling sensation like water over stone, a sense of something even bigger beneath the rippling surface. The molecules below slowly begin their dance. A soft, building flow that begins to gather and rise. The prick of magnetism, a purring motor, an electric current running through the body, and suddenly a sense of rising up, a sharp inhalation, and up, 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 the tipping point to go over the welling and the initial flood, the momentum taking us into an entirely new space. And I can tell you, I experienced that sitting in a restaurant in Peru, in Cusco.
Mm-hmm.
That's why my trip to Peru was so freaking powerful. It's a place of orgasmic life, love, energy.
Mm-hmm.
Bolivia probably is too.
Well, it
But
is a whole country. Yeah, but not one place. But I guess,
yeah,
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 we could all have,
that
we could all
area,
be. Mm-hmm.
that area around Lake Titicaca, I would say,
Okay. Yeah, that's
far and not just immediate to Lake Titicaca.
the Taipicala, Wilcauta. It's got many names. As
Yeah,
Hayamarca, land of the spirits.
right. Yeah. There we go. That's so beyond surrender, the sense of self falls into the sweeping river, and there's no separation between coursing molecules, the flashes of light and darkness, no thought or will or action in the way that a waterfall has no other option but to cascade and roar and froth and churn. A place unknown, a glimpse into the bellows of the universe, hollowing, emptying, and filling. Nothing guards the door. This is beyond control. We're lit up with potential and everything is possible. We are free. This is the essence of orgasm. When we feel most truly ourselves and our lives feel most entirely lived. So many of us, especially women, keep our orgasmic potential at an arm's length. And for the hugest number of us, sex is a performance or a chore. It may evoke shame or blame in the words, I can't get off, or he can't get me off, or what if I can't get him off? And let's consider that expression for a moment, to get off. What does that really mean? Why have we reduced it to that? Getting off of what?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Of being turned on, maybe.
Yeah, could be. Yeah,
I want to get off being turned on. So, yeah, sometimes you can reduce it to that.
yeah. And so maybe the word orgasm conjures up ideas or fantasies, lights off in the missionary position or whatever. However, none of that is orgasm. At least it's not all the orgasm can be, and it won't take you to places that real orgasm can take you.
Mhm.
Real orgasm is the full ongoing access to our sexuality, our eros, the source of female power. Under the surface, orgasm flows through us, shaping and guiding us through the sensations and experience of our life. Orgasm is the ongoing flow of love, or munai ki. And that word, that's a Quechua word, right? Munai.
Mm-hmm.
And it means so much more. It's such a vaster word than love. So maybe it's the fifth letter that makes it that. But
It's also desire.
yeah, that permeates all aspects of life. So the true orgasm is not just a moment of release. It's a continuous state of being, an open channel of sensation and connection to the deeper forces of existence. It's the current that shapes our desires and fuels our power. Climax, that we call orgasm, is just merely a glimpse, a little tiny picture into this huge, expansive energy. To live in orgasm means to embrace this state as a way of engaging with the world, one of receptivity, surrender, flow, and deep attunement to the present moment. It's the practice of opening fully to what arises without suppression or avoidance. And this redefinition invites us to reclaim orgasm, not just as a sexual event, but as a transformative power. Orgasm is the nexus that connects us to the whole of our lives, our bodies, and the world around us. And female orgasm is the most powerful force on the planet. But if all our orgasm means to us is that passing flash of contractions followed by sleepy relief, then we reduce what is possible for our orgasm to some anatomical byproduct of man's reproductive sexual reflex, and our female bodies to just being baby factories. So climax, that we all consider orgasm, is a brief, intense physiological event characterized by a peak of sensation, followed by an abrupt release of built-up tension. Unlike orgasm, that is an ongoing sense of expanded awareness and erotic flow. This is what Eckhart Tolle calls presence. Climax, orgasm is presence. Climax is a short-lived discharge that restores homeostasis, but it does not sustain or deepen this erotic love experience or love presence. Most of us are conditioned for habituated climax, that momentary burst of pleasure that most often leaves us feeling depleted rather than fulfilled. Mm-hmm. And this kind of climax is driven by a need for relief. It's a mechanical reaction to tension rather than an embodied engagement with sensation. Mm-hmm. In contrast, non-habituated climax allows for a more fluid experience where energy is not simply expelled, but transformed, leading us to deeper states of erotic love consciousness. While climax is often mistaken for the full experience of orgasm, it's merely just a surface level event, like the lightning bolt that briefly illuminates the sky. While orgasm is the ongoing storm of sensation and love, and just those words take me back to that night on Uros where I was watching all the climaxes dance around the plane of Puno, right? And then feeling the full storm of sensation. Maybe that's why they like to live on their floating islands, as they feel that full orgasmic sensation. It was an interesting experience.
But, yeah, I've had that. I've had a lighting storm in the lake too, without any rain. It was really crazy. It's like a lot of lighting and no rain.
No rain. Wow.
And the lighting would hit the water. We were like at least 100 feet, 100 meters above the water line.
Wow.
So we got a pretty good perspective, and the lighting, I guess it was a reflection, but it looked like it would hit the water and it would continue going down into the water, into the lake. It's something I don't know if I'll ever get to see again. It was just too, and we were dead afraid because we were in this lodge, this little stone lodge next to a huge, humongous, kind of dryish out of place pine tree, because those that kind of place doesn't have pine trees. There's this humongous lighting rod like right next
Right.
to us.
Yeah.
We were that kept
I
us from
bet.
enjoying that show as much as
Well, you could.
we would
Yeah, I
have
bet.
if we weren't. If at least me, I don't know, my friend, a French guy I was with.
Yeah.
Um, if he was as afraid as me, I was afraid. I was just thinking, please,
Okay.
it's I hope no lighting lands on the tree because we're fried if it does.
Yeah, I bet. And that is Munaiki. And it moves through our body. So women carry a hidden longing, but so do men. We're not leaving men out of this. This longing, this pure eros passion longing, is a force so vast it could remake the world if we only dared to unleash it. It is the longing of our forming erotic force. And notice I'm using the word forming instead of creation, because the word creation places a creator outside of the creation. Babies aren't created, they're formed.
Hmm.
So forming, erotic force, orgasmic love, the untapped current of life itself. True orgasm is like that moment just before climax when everything in the world feels lit up with potential and all things seem possible. When we can orient to all of life from orgasm, all things truly are possible, and this is what it means to be free.
Mm.
Rumi said, why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open? And he also said, the entrance to the sanctuary is inside us. So before we go into man bashing and talk about patriarchy, let's strip away all that deflection, all the
Hmm.
stories of how it's men that keep women down and how they hoard all of the goods for themselves, and the elite and the patriarchy, and how they have to share their power for us to have any. Over
Hmm.
the years, we have constructed massive dams inside ourselves, especially as women, that hold us back. And whomever we blame for building those walls, we are absolutely and totally responsible for the maintenance of them and for our reinforcing of them against the rising tide of this longing that swells within us and then pools. This erotic longing, right? One thing has the power to burst that dam, to dislodge the blockage and set the river running, and it's our sexuality. The erotic is a resource within each of us that lies in a deeply female and spiritual plane, firmly rooted in the power of our unexpressed or unrecognized sensations, not feelings, and the ability to feel the sensations. So when sexual Munaiki, or love, floods the body, its consciousness is soaked in what it truly desires, satisfying every concern or craving of the predicting brain. And we're going to talk about that predicting brain next week too. Immersed in orgasm, the mind can recognize that all its formation, which is entire cultures of art and poetry and architecture, are all in devotion of this power. Beyond the ritual and solemnity of masculine spirituality is the ecstatic, rapturous, direct, and unmediated experience of female spirituality, or love. And this is the experience that we reach through our sexuality, and that man can reach through us women. Our direct access to the complete experience of orgasm is the direct core of our power. Feminine power is rooted in what makes us unique as women. Our bodies are made to take in and hold space for formation of babies, physical babies. But men have the power to also take in and hold space for formation through their lower dantians.
Hmm.
Right? It's just not the formation of a physical baby, but a human baby, so to speak. So when we our beings, both of us, male and female, our beings are sexual, sensual, and evocative, but especially female because we have that that vagina to welcome the male penis into. We birth life into the world, and so we understand the interconnections between people at the deep and intimate level that man may not recognize. So when we allow our landscape of desires and sensations to express and just as openly draw in the full experience offered back to us by our outer world, we can discover the power that we have let go for so long. We've mistaken power for force. Power exists as a whole. It forms by metabolizing and not requiring energy from any external source. Force is what acts on the formings. So what do we call formings? A tree is a forming, a plant is a forming. So force is what takes the tree and acts on it to make paper.
Okay.
Right? Or force is what takes the forming that's known as a pig and acts on it to make it into food.
The transformation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And masculine power follows the rules of force. And in this, too many of us women have played the role of a princess, reluctant to accept the world responsibilities of the empress. And I'm using the word empress instead of queen. We'll explain that in just a minute. These responsibilities are the responsibilities of motherhood, to accept the mantle as the provider, not just for another living being, but for all beings, and to join in the process of being the provider. Because a queen sits on her throne and commands without joining in, while an empress helps form the empire. To be that important, that powerful, and that consequential can feel overwhelming. To know that one's role cannot be filled in the exact way by another person on the planet is an incredibly powerful place to stand, and a responsible place to stand, and right, to know that. And this is where we really need to understand that separation is not, after we've spent 9 months floating in the sea of unity, loving unity, we're not separate. We're just distinct beings with our own separate point of view. I think we need to really focus on that instead of the separation. So to accept this brand of power means stepping into the larger version of oneself for both men and women and being accountable for the influence that we wield. And this is pledging to inhabit, and this is why the matriarchal societies say the man that acts like a mother, that has that wanting to take on the mantle of not just one life, not just his bloodkin, but his beyond bloodkin. Right? So that's why the matriarchal societies honor men like that. And it's a really a big role to step into. And it's pledging to inhabit this role with both fierceness and grace for the good of all. The world that we all have formed is not supportive of mothers and does not welcome empresses. However, we don't need to blame men for this or rely on them to change the circumstances. This is called stepping down and into our own significance. And to do that, we must want to be free and want the flow of feminine power, that is orgasmic power, that is always flowing through us and around us. And so to do this, we must embrace the power of call. And that's very interesting that this is such a power, because men that go hunting use a device to call the animals into them, right? Call is a subtle yet powerful ability to attract and influence people and situations without force. it's really interesting that we have that power, and men use that external to call in animals for them to kill, right? For them to eat. Let's say that nicer.
Mhm.
It is the unseen and yet deeply felt Munai Ki love that forms everything by drawing others in. Call operates through resonance and presence, and the masculine force seeks to control through effort and domination. Call is the ability to move mountains with little to no effort. And when we own our call, which would be the siren song, too, we shift from viewing life as something that happens to us to recognizing ourselves as the formers of our experience. So the path of an orgasmic life has us move from our heads into our bodies in flow. And flow is the seamless movement with the current of love, of life, of existence, where resistance dissolves and we become fully immersed with the present moment. It's about attunement, listening to life signals and responding with trust. And then everything feels right because we accept and engage with what arises without constriction. When we live in orgasm, we do not force experience as we allow sensation and connection to guide us, which is flow. Living an orgasmic life of flow means embracing the unfolding of life with openness and presence. So, feminine power is based in vision and call, evoking from the absence, not invoking, evoking the absence to, or the void, right? The Nacht, to give, to form, and nurturing that into being. To live immersed in the erotic Munai Ki is a way of being where we live and breathe life's energy and it lives and breathes us. And this is moving from orgasm as a momentary pleasure to achieve to orgasm as a sustained state of vivid clarity in which we live and operate. And in this state, nothing is unwelcome, undesirable, or inconvenient. All is just simply alive. So when we open to this sexual erotic energy, when we claim and integrate it into our being, we access our purpose, our drive, our leadership, our power. And that is our wellspring, and it fuels us completely. And this is true freedom. Orgasm offers a direct path there. So how do we cultivate living in our own body and living in the state of orgasm? Well, orgasmic meditation is the fastest and most reliable and repeatable and safest method to access flow and the mystical state, which is a profound sense of understanding and satisfaction at the core of our power. Om, or orgasmic meditation, is a structured attention training practice conducted between two people who are following a predefined set of detailed instructions. So the practice involves one person, the stroker, gently stroking the clitoris of a strokee for 15 minutes while they both place their attention on the point of contact and notice what they feel. The clitoris is estimated to have 10,000 nerve endings, the human clitoris, let me restate that, which is the highest concentration of nerve endings in the entire human anatomy, making it a powerful physical tether to our attention. And as we increase our capacity to maintain attention on this most highly sensational part of the body, our Munai Ki organizes in such a way that we can meet life more skillfully, understanding what is needed in each moment and how to apply it. The practice takes place in a nest, which is a setup with a blanket, pillows, a meditation cushion, maybe, and has clear protocols that ensures a repeatable container. Om, or orgasmic meditation, trains our nervous system to register subtle and nuanced information and to expand attention. And it harnesses the immense neural and erotic potential of the clitoris while training the mind to stay present in a heightened sensation. It doesn't focus on climax. It expands one's ability to stay in the heightened ongoing state of orgasm where sensation and awareness begin to or deepen to bring us closer to connection with others and the world. And this practice builds the capacity for resilience and flow. The regular practice of Om, or orgasmic meditation, enhances the body's ability to receive and give love, or Munaiki. By harnessing the body's most primal impulse, it bootstraps biology to create a direct pathway to one's own power. And this practice cultivates an inner steadiness that affords a great courage so that we don't abandon ourselves or others in moments of difficulty. And rather than retreating, we who practice Om meditation can welcome a life of deeper intimacy and enhanced emotional regulation. So again, the practice involves the strokee removing her lower garments and lying down in the nest while the stroker, which can be either man or woman, remains fully clothed and sits beside her. The stroker follows a prescribed set of instructions and strokes the strokee's clitoris with the tip of their left index finger for 15 minutes. The stroker places a dab of lube on their left index finger and right thumb. So both hands are engaged. The right thumb is placed at the strokee's introitus of the vagina, where it rests for the entire 15 minutes. The stroke with the index finger, the left index finger, is a simple brushing up and down against the clitoris with no more pressure than you would use to stroke your eyelid. The tip of the finger remains in contact with the clitoris for the duration of the Om. And for the final 2 minutes, the stroker will stroke with a downward emphasis using firmer pressure and slightly longer strokes. And then they apply grounding pressure with their palm to the genitals of the strokee, which removes any excess lube. For most meditation practitioners, the focus is on the breath, and over time this has its effects. However, the breath is a very weak signal and the sensation is relatively low. The focused, intentional stroking of the clitoris is a very strong signal. So during Om, the strokee may often ask and needs to be open to ask for lighter or firmer strokes, faster, slower, more to the left or right, more energetically up and down or whatever, to adjust the stroke so that the clitoris matches the flow of presence for optimal arousal. Enough that awareness comes alive in vibrant detail, but not so high that we contract against it. So we can call this being on the spot instead of getting off. When we're on the spot, we feel everything. And as the stroke comes fully on into the spot, it may feel like everything suddenly drops away and becomes quiet. And we feel an electromagnetic hum that begins in the clitoris and moves through the whole body. The stroker's finger becomes an exquisite sensor, and the clitoris is exquisitely sensed. And when we're on the spot, there's a dynamic quality to the impact that we have on each other. We find ourselves connected to the whole of the universe and the whole of the universe flowing through us. And each person impacts the other with subtle openings and closings. And this is what Om, or orgasmic meditation, trains us for. The world of connection, where the possibility exists for a feedback loop of sensation and connection. In Om, we can experience and acknowledge directly that we profoundly affect each other, and that we can move and be guided with gentleness, and we can build and form things together. As a strokee, we females learn our attention and allow the connection to move through us. When the stroker moves with our spot, there is an interior feeling like swaying in unison with music. And during a single Om, it's typical for peaks and changes to the stroke to occur lots. But the last few minutes of the orgasmic meditation are spent stroking with the conscious intention to come back down, using slower, heavier down strokes. And at the end of the 15 minutes, the stroker lifts their finger from the clitoris and applies grounding pressure, placing their hand over the palm of their hand over the strokee's genitals and up towards the strokee's head for a few seconds. This pressure relieves the genitals of engorgement and helps smooth out the more energizing stroking portion of the Om. And then the partners sit up and share a frame. a brief description of the sensations they experienced, creating a feedback loop between the partners and developing a bridge to the orgasmic experience. This helps us train to live from orgasm, and the bridge we're building is home. Orgasmic meditation is like a steroid for attention training, allowing the quick building of this muscle. It's visceral rather than conceptual. And we're going to talk about this next week in the origin of feelings. Visceral is what we feel in our bodies. Conceptual is created by words.
Okay.
Interacting directly with the nervous system, and it's our neural net, our nervous system, that creates our external world. So this is why it's so important for us to become visceral rather than conceptual. We don't contemplate enlightenment and expansion, we become it. And when we allow the energy of the sensation to permeate our consciousness and allow that signal to guide us home, we come into deep and lasting connection with the energy of life. So the effect of orgasmic meditation is total metamorphosis of the way we think, feel, and apprehend. In the orgasmic state, we align with things as they actually are, rather than our concept of them or any desires or perceptions about how they should be. So we're connecting with the essence of the creative spark that resides within us by the most direct path. And this means we literally rewire ourselves, reorganize our nervous system so that we can be more open to connection. And then we can experience ourselves more richly and share that abundance with others. The fact that we hold back in seeking to connect with our deeper self means we also hold back from each other. And when we numb one sensation, we numb them all. When we isolate ourselves from one another, we isolate ourselves from life. So orgasmic practice is a goalless, or orgasmic meditation is a goalless practice, meaning there's no outcome to achieve. It's about developing focused attention and cultivating sexual energy so that we can open to the orgasmic state. And the practice shows us what it means to belong to one another, to life, and to love. So our task is not to seek for love, but to find all the barriers within ourselves that we have built against it. And that's where we'll end. And next week, we're going to go into the origin of feeling, not emotion.
Okay. You've mentioned that there's a difference between those two before.
There is. Emotions are created by concepts.
And we're going to get that distinction next week.
Well, kind of. We'll have to go into the concepts more another time, but concepts are created with words. Or feelings, the two feelings we have, pleasure versus displeasure, is truly visceral. It is felt everywhere in the body. Every organ has displeasure or pleasure. There's no emotions in organs. There's only the feeling.
Okay. So the origin of feeling, that's the invitation for next week's conversation. And well, on the first conversation we had about this subject, it was a little bit more about the genders. Now I got a little more detailed and focused on the act of the sexual exchange. So,
well, and this orgasmic meditation isn't. I would propose, because there's a spot on the male penis that has the same tissue as the clitoris. So I would propose doing it both ways, rather than just focusing on the female clitoris. That for the strokey to spend 15, if he's a male, to spend 15 minutes with the female clitoris, and then she spends 15 minutes with that spot on his penis, his holy penis that has the same tissue as the clit, and see what that evokes. And this is not about this again. And another time we'll go into the science of how this actually, what they've actually witnessed, how it actually transforms people's lives. Again, it's not about a sexual act. It's about an honoring of the sexual organs.
Yes, and like that, everything should be honored and should be consciously approached. And That's the distinction. But the if you didn't say all of this, we might forget about doing that same thing, treating spiritually and honorably the act of sexuality itself. So, and that sometimes is missing. Some other people, I understand they do have that. They do have gotten that message, but if they could have access to this information, I'm pretty sure they would really appreciate. So anyone that is in that path of deeper learning and insight will surely appreciate this conversation and the next conversation and every single one of the different curriculums that we have
Yeah.
that we are preparing and exposing here in I Need Living Conversation. So
Yeah.
welcome. Well, not welcome, but well, you're welcome to come next week. You're welcome to come on the next session next week at the same time, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. And please check out our website, alohainidaliving.com, if you wish to be part of this movement of liberation, of research, of co-creating a new world based on the ancient knowledge that can also be complemented by all this incredible science that you find, which is all the science that has been, I like the term you use, put under the rug of history.
Right.
Where it's been censored, or it's been we use now the word shadow banned in a way where it's just nobody gets to know about it. So come here if you want to know these things, this amazing pieces of knowledge, information, then you have to come here to watch them. And if you want to be part of it, then you can join Aloha I Need Our Living. So with that, we'll leave you for this week. And anything else you want to say?
Well, maybe we should change Aloha I Need Our Living to Orgasmic Living.
Okay.
Orgasmicliving.com and Orgasmicvilles.
Okay. Already.
We'll think about that. But yeah, I can. Yeah, I can.
So we do need
I
to
can.
stick to a name. I mean, we can't. If you want to be something, you gotta have like a just one name. You can't be changing it.
I know.
That's what I think. But yeah, it's. We don't need to say it. I mean, it's. If you have this knowledge, then we should naturally understand that this it touches everything too. It's more about perceiving, feeling. It's pretty interesting because we get caught by, like you say, and you're going to clarify that next week, our emotions. Yet what we need to do is to feel, allow ourselves to feel, and allow ourselves
the
to
state
interpret.
of displeasure versus displeasure, or pleasure versus displeasure.
And
right? We need
allow
to come to
ourselves
that
to.
simple.
Maybe I'll finish my
Yeah.
idea.
Sorry.
You're maybe taking it somewhere else, but yeah, I was going to say, allow ourselves to have the. It's almost like there's an intelligence inherent in the feeling, and
Yeah.
we override it with intellectuality. So if we can just have the smarts to feel it, feeling something is not just feeling it; it's also knowing it. So we need to know it, and it's almost like what you're talking about, the orgasmic experience of reality, where if you can increase the amount of feeling of how you perceive an experience, and that's where you can get a lot more experience, a lot more knowledge, a lot more insight into the experience, if you're not blocking it with a thought that needs to interpret what is happening.
A concept, right? Well, so take for instance, like this morning, I have this pig, Oinkers, who was coddled and raised, bottle raised, and the people who did that needed to bring him back. So he thinks he's a goat and he lives with the goats, and he thinks he needs to come in and to the house and demand dog food whenever he damn well wants to, and he's entitled to dog food every 5 minutes of every day, of every hour of every day. And so he greets me as typical when I go out to feed, and I go to get him corn, and I'm in barefoot sandals, and with his little sharp hooves, he steps on my foot.
Mm-hmm.
And it hurt. It was an intense feeling of displeasure. Mm. And I found myself at that moment, from knowing that our inherent body state has only two feelings: pleasure or displeasure, comfort or right? Pleasant versus unpleasant.
But that can be a gradient as well, where depends on your mental state. You can, something that you at once might feel discomforting, you might find pleasurable later on.
It might, yeah. Yes, it's a gradient, absolutely. But I found my mind, while I'm focusing on this, I found my mind wanting to go to, I feel angry, the concept of anger.
Okay.
That he fucking stepped on my foot. And I brought it back to no, that was a feeling of intense displeasure.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want it
stomped on.
Right? And I'm not going to give it any more than that. Mm-hmm. I kicked him out of my way. I'm not going to give it any more than that. I'm not going to let it become a toxic emotion.
Right. You don't need to build on that, or
it's just simply
I get what you're saying. Yes.
Right? Can we bring it back to that simple, rather than all this like the author of this book I'm reading about this creates, after she tells us that our body is so simple, it's so complex that it's so simple that it has only two states of feelings: pleasure versus displeasure, which is what the clitoris was formed for, pure pleasure, right? The human clitoris, anyway, because all female animals have a clitoris. They just, I don't know. We don't know that they feel the same pleasure that humans do. Mm-hmm. But then she goes into the next chapter how we create concepts with words, and we can create this rich fabric of concepts that cause emotions, which emotions become toxic because we hang on to them and go, oh my God, fucking God, he made me feel so angry.
Yeah,
was it anger, or was it just a fleeting moment of intense displeasure?
Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah. So we're gonna jump on that train on next week when we talk about that.
Yeah, because it really piggybacks onto this. I think it really does.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be great and very, very informative and very necessary for today's society, which is losing contact with everything. We're being programmed into digital numbness.
And isolation.
Mm-hmm. And isolationism and so many bad things. So here you'll find some medicine. Obviously, we don't get as shadow banned on Rumble, so this is where most viewers are going to find us. But we're also in YouTube. If you can subscribe there, it would be helpful to get more subscribers there. And so we'll be here next week for the
origin of feeling.
The origin of feeling. Amazing. So happy to see you all. Waterfalls of blessings to everyone, and see you next week.
Yeah.